Now, the more we learn about conditions at migrant detention centers near the U.S.-Mexico border, I got to tell you, the worse it gets. And the Department of Homeland Security has just released a report on that overcrowding, and BuzzFeed got a hold of these pictures. They show severe overcrowding, kids wrapped in foil and wearing surgical masks to protect them from germs and packed cages. NBC News reporting that government watchdogs, they've been aware of the problems at the El Paso facilities since May. The report says the situation so bad, border agents were arming themselves against possible riots. Plus, a top Trump official, they were actually denying that there was a problem at all at those facilities, even though they were directly warned about the conditions. NBC also got its hands on a Homeland Security report that shows inspectors toured the facilities and saw the issues for themselves. Only 4 showers for 750 migrants, many of the people being held outside as there was no room inside. Things in the cells weren't much better as they were sweltering, measured at 80 degrees or even hotter, and they were also packed, 100 people in cells intended for 20. Plus, there was no clean clothing for the people being held, so they were wearing things that are torn or soiled, and there are also reports of people drinking out of toilets as there is no clean water to drink. Also, many of the migrants apparently have lice. There's also been a flu outbreak, and chickenpox has spread as well. Plus, a new report from ProPublica shows many current and former border agents are having, well, let's just say, an inconsiderate time at the expense of these detainees, making fun of the people supposed to be caring for. They got wind of a secret Facebook group where members are joking about the deaths of migrants. In one exchange, they commented on the death of a 16-year-old girl from Guatemala by posting, "Oh well." They're also making racist jokes, discussing throwing burritos at Latino members of Congress, including Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez from New York. Also, sexist comments were found as well. They even made fun of this now iconic image of a man and his child who died while trying to cross the Rio Grande. The posting calls the victims floaters and questions whether the picture was a fake created by liberals. President Trump, he was asked about that Facebook group yesterday, and this is what he said.
Well, I don't know what they're saying about members of Congress. I know that the Border Patrol is not happy with the Democrats in Congress. I will say the Republicans do want border security. The Democrats want open borders. So the Border Patrol, they're patriots. They're great people. They love our country. They know what's coming in.
Some of the comments from that Border Patrol Facebook group included talking about sexually assaulting young girls. Great people. Former Obama Advisor Laurie Watkins, she joins me now. She recently visited the border to see what was going on and also to care for this migrant population. Laurie, when a lot of people were taken aback by the accounts and the images that we saw from some of those detention facilities, you weren't as shocked, were you? Some of the accounts that you've heard kind of mirror what we saw.
The images and the actual visual effects that the members of Congress are seeing now is what I've been witnessing for over the past year. It's just been exacerbated tenfold. Members brought a delegation down to El Paso yesterday, and they visited some detention centers along the border. They were able to see with their own eyes what's happening. Women and children sleeping on concrete floors, giving Mylar blankets to keep warm. Lights being turned on all throughout the night and throughout the day to literally try to drive people crazy and mess with their minds. Psychological manipulation is what we call this. Children are dirty. They're not being fed. They're not being clean. They're not receiving showers. So at the respite center where I've worked numerous times, we're receiving these migrants as soon as they are released from detention. And in the conditions that I have seen them, they are covered in sickness, snot, sometimes, from vomiting, from being sick. Some of these kids are also, you can imagine, people have to cross the Rio Grande. Oscar and Valeria lost their life trying to do that. When you cross the Rio Grande, there is bacteria and there's elements within the river. When people are crossing and staying and soaking wet clothing, you can imagine what that does to the body. It can cause disease, it can cause infection, it can cause all kinds of things. These members of Congress are finally seeing for themselves what these people have been put through. Before some migrants, if they get lucky to even go through the process, there are some folks who will help them by coaching them, by giving them real life information that can possibly help them, tools, tips, how to enter, whether they, or letting them know that they will be cold, that they might not eat, to expect the worst. I don't agree with any of this. But the fact that we have to prepare people for the worst at a United States Customs and Border Protection facility is atrocious.
I spent the better part of a week down on the Tijuana side and obviously the San Diego, around that border. So I can't speak to what was going on in Texas, but the one thing that struck me, and you try to separate some of the politics of this, is that it's a humanitarian crisis. Not everyone can or should be able to walk across our border and be part of America, but what struck me was, from some of the young people that came unaccompanied to the young parents with kids, they are fleeing some awful stuff in that Northern Triangle. And again, there's the political aspect that we've withdrawn funds, but there's almost an incentive for these folks to say, well, if the president's talking about building a wall, it better come now. If there's less and less reasons to stay back here as the violence only increases, plus now you have Venezuela going into a state of emergency as well, this problem's only going to get worse, not better. And it can't just be, opening up the borders to anyone who wants to come through and have asylum, especially given this administration. So what is the answer? What needs to happen to help address this problem back from their home countries before they come here?
Sure. I believe immediately we need to open visa application offices inside these countries. Of course, it's heartbreaking to see these folks who have been told that it is a pathway towards freedom, towards citizenship and safety, only for them to get so close to be turned away, and possibly lose their life, again, like Oscar and Valeria did. They were trying to come across legally until they were turned away. Once they were turned away, they tried to cross the Rio Grande by themselves. Again, people will not give up. We need to open more visa application offices within these countries and give the aid back that the president just cut. The president just cut over $400 billion to the Northern Triangle area that was supposed to receive aid over a long period of time, that we have been doing, that the State Department and humanitarian offices have been in charge of. The president decided to cut off that aid completely. The fact that he has cut off the aid shows how much this administration cares about this Northern Triangle issue. You don't deal with the source of the issue, which is coming from the Northern Triangle. That is where these people are migrating from, these three countries, El Salvador, Honduras, and Guatemala. The longer we continue to ignore that, the worse off the situation is going to be, because they will continue to come. If we have people within or nearby those countries, not just doing visa applications, but also educating these people to tell them what the real scenario is, that they probably won't get into the country. Instead, they're relying on the information coming from smugglers and coyotes, and that's not the right information that they need to be receiving. It needs to come from a trusted source and governments that are working together to help the people.
If it's not loud and clear, this situation, everyone, is going to get worse before it gets better. There is little incentive for folks to say, especially given what they're seeing firsthand. Laurie, I appreciate a few minutes. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Richard. You have a great day.
When we come back, the issue of reparations. It's become a hot button topic on Capitol Hill once again. We're going to have a special report that explains the issue, and we also get expert analysis on what all this means.